Shalom. I just like the way that sounds, but shalom. Hello, thank you, and welcome to my channel. So, we're going to go ahead and we're going to continue with part 7 of Daniel chapter 9, verse 27. So, we have finally made it to the last verse, but we're not exactly at the end. We still have some more stones to unturn, and it gets really deep. But actually, this is like one of my favorite verses. I feel like this is one of the most abused verses in the Bible. And by the time we're done studying it, you'll see why I say that. But nonetheless, let's go ahead and get started. So Daniel 9 verse 27 starts by saying, "And he shall confirm the covenant with many for 1 week. And in the midst of the week he shall cause the sacrifice and the oblation to cease. And for the overspreading of abominations he shall make it desolate, even until the consummation. And that determined shall be poured out on the desolate." So as usual, we need to start with breaking it down and looking at what is important. What are the key elements that are going to help us unlock these passages? So there are 2 things we need to know. We need to know what is a covenant and who is he? We'll start with the first question. What is a covenant? Now, as usual, I am going to look up the definition. And it looks like it's defined as a covenant, allies, covenants, el berith, league, treaty. So this is how it's defined. It appears the Hebrew word is going to be berith. I hope I said that correctly. I'm actually working on my Hebrew, so I'm learning. Nonetheless, let's go ahead and continue. So the next question we need to address is, who is he? Who is he? So there's this age-old debate. Some people say he is the Antichrist. Other people say he is the Messiah. Which one is it? Now, when it comes to the Antichrist, a lot of people kind of get tunnel vision. It's important to expand and understand that the Antichrist, like people like to call him, he's not limited to just that. He has many names, just like the children of Israel has many names. And you're going to see him talked about all throughout scripture. And he's called the King of the North, the son of perdition, the man of lawlessness, so on and so forth, the beast. So for this video, we're going to stick with the context of Daniel chapter 9 and really in Daniel 11, where he is identified as the King of the North. So this is a pivotal because we need to understand everything and keep everything in context so that we can unravel what's really going on. So again, is he the King of the North, which many like to call the Antichrist? Make sure we're making the proper association. Don't forget, he's the King of the North. Or is he a Yeshua, the Hamashiach? And there's only one way to find out, so let's continue. Who is he? Well, that's a good question. Let's start by examining both of them because we have to be fair. We're going to see, is it the King of the North? We really need to test it because in scripture, there is a verse that talks about the King of the North being called the Prince of the Covenant. So could that he that they're talking about be the King of the North? Let's see. We're going to look at Daniel 11:22 verse 23, and it starts by saying, "With the arms of a flood shall they be overflown from before him, and shall be broken. Yea, also the Prince of the Covenant. And after the league made with him, he shall work deceitfully, for he shall come up and shall become strong with a small people." Okay, so in this verse, one of the things we're going to see is he is called the Prince of the Covenant. Now, when we examine Daniel 9:27, it does say he shall confirm a covenant with many. So, is it the King of the North? Because he is called the Prince of the Covenant. And in one of our previous videos where we talked about the prince, we see this prince is referring to a leader. So he is a leader of a covenant that was made. The next thing we notice is that he forms a league, which means he made an alliance. Because remember, when we were looking up what a covenant means, one of the definitions is that it is dealing with a league. So in other words, this league that he formed is basically he has made a covenant. Now, after the formation of this league is when he is going to work deceitfully. So in other words, he comes with an agreement he makes an alliance, and it appears that obviously the alliance and the agreement that was made, the covenant that was made, was to work deceitfully, because he starts working deceitfully after the league is made. And lastly, what we also see in that verse is he's going to come up, or basically rise to power and be very strong with a few people. So the few people is very pivotal as well, because it lets us know that he made a covenant with a few people. So just putting it all together, he basically formed a league, and the league is basically a covenant that he made with a few people. And of course, of this covenant that he made, he is the prince of that covenant. He is the leader of that covenant. So this passage tells you everything that we need to know about this covenant that was made. He made it with a few people, and he becomes very strong and powerful with just a few, which when we read in Daniel, we see that yes, he was doing just that. When we looked in the previous passages about him overflowing, being very powerful, and who was at his steps, which means that they were his allies, they were by his side, and that's in Daniel chapter 11. But unfortunately, although we see that he's a prince of a covenant, it does not quite add up. He still does not fit the he that is mentioned in Daniel 9:27. And there are two reasons why we can rule him out. Here's why it can't be the king of the north, aka the Antichrist. There are two problems. Problem one, the king made a league, or in other words, a covenant with a few people. We already see in Daniel 9:27, it says he will confirm a covenant with many. Also, the other problem is that there is no mention of a week or 7 years. None. Daniel 9:27 also says not only is he going to confirm a covenant with many, but it will be for 1 week. You can read through Daniel 11 and any other passages you'd like. You will not find any mention of 7 years or 1 week whatsoever. If you do find it, perhaps I missed something. Go ahead and share that with me, but you're just not going to find it. Okay, so then naturally that only leaves one other candidate. If it's not the king of the north, which is called the Antichrist, I just want to make sure that people are connecting the Antichrist to the king of the north and understanding it's the same one. But nonetheless, if it's not the king of the north, then it must be Yeshua, right? It could be. We're not going to just automatically make it Yeshua by process of elimination. We want to have depth and understanding of what's really going on. If it's not the Antichrist, if it's not the king of the north, and if it is Yeshua, then we need to prove it. So let's see what we find. Where you're going to start will be in Matthew chapter 26, verse 28. But before we look into that passage, we need another definition. We need to understand something. What is a testament? So before we looked up the covenant in the Old Testament, which we got the Hebrew word berith, dealing with allies, dealing with the league, things along those lines. That was in the Old Testament. Now we will look at what a testament is in the Greek. So when we look at what a testament is in the Greek, it tells us, again, a covenant. So it's a covenant. All right, and a will, a testament. I found this interesting. It kind of explains it as a properly a set agreement having complete terms determined by the initiating party, which also are fully affirmed by the one entering into the agreement. So I just thought that was interesting. And again, ultimately, a testament is dealing with a will, and obviously, most importantly, it's dealing with a covenant. So let's look a little deeper and see what we find. So again, the verse we were to examine was Matthew 26. And we're going to look at verses 26 through 29 first. In Matthew chapter 26, it says, "And as they were eating, Yeshua took bread and blessed it, and brake it, and gave it to the disciples, and said, 'Take, eat, this is my body.' And he took the cup and gave thanks, and gave it to them, saying, 'Drink ye all of it, For this is my blood of the New Testament, which is shed for many, for the remission of sins. But I say unto you, but I will not drink henceforth of this fruit of the vine until the day when I drink it new with you in my Father's kingdom. I'm sure you saw it. I'm sure it stood out to you, but we're going to look a little bit closer at specifically verse 28. Drink ye all of it, for this is my blood of the New Testament, which we discovered testament is a covenant, the new covenant, which is shed for many, for the remission of sin, which also falls in line with Daniel 9 verse 24. Now naturally you may be thinking, well, that's only for the children of Israel. Correct. Yes, it is only for the children of Israel. But remember, anyone who believes in Yeshua HaMashiach, because of this new covenant, because when he died on a cross and he shed his blood, it opened up salvation to the Gentiles. So remember, the Gentiles are the multitude. They're the seed. They are the many. This means if a Gentile believes, they are not only the seed of Abraham, but they are heirs according to the promise, making no distinction between Jew and Gentile, between the Yahudim and the Greek that are grafted in. Because unfortunately we know some of the branches are going to be broken off, some of the Israelites are going to be removed, and that made room for some of the Gentiles to come in. That's why when the fullness of the Gentiles comes in, so there's a quota that has to be met. Yeah, so I don't want to get off topic, but the point of it is that in the Old Testament, it is prophesying about the New Testament, about the covenant that Yeshua, the HaMashiach, will make for many. It obviously includes the Israelites because that's what this whole thing is all about. But the new covenant extended salvation unto the Gentiles that were willing to come in. Also, remember, we're not done, because Daniel 9:27 says he shall confirm the covenant with many for 1 week. Well, we've already established this Matthew 26 verse 28 that shows that he confirmed the covenant with many. He confirmed it. So, he confirmed it by what he said and by what he did. Salvation, of course, came once he shed his blood officially. But continuing. But then there's that last part, for 1 week. Well, this all happened and transpired during the Last Supper, which was Passover. That is the 1 week. It was Passover week / unleavened bread, which we're actually going to go much more in detail than this in a separate video about how this all plays out. But the point that you don't want to miss is that this happened during Passover week. Now, Passover week, Feast of Unleavened Bread, they are actually two different things, but a lot of times it is called Passover week. Nonetheless, it was during the Passover meal, during the Passover week, while eating the Passover meal, he makes the statement and confirms the covenant with many. He confirmed the New Testament. He confirmed the new covenant. Now, like I said, during the Passover week, Yeshua ate the Passover meal where he confirmed the new covenant by saying, drink ye all of it, for this is my blood of the New Testament, the new covenant, which is shed for many. That means that it extended salvation to the Gentiles for the remission of sins. And understand this, even though he extended salvation to the Gentiles, it does not in any way whatsoever, this new covenant does not abolish the old covenant. And honestly, that too we will go into more detail about by the time we get done with this entire passage. There's so much revelation to be revealed. It's astounding. But understand, the new covenant does not in any way abolish the old covenant. You'd be shocked to find out just how much it does not abolish the old covenant. Like I said, we'll talk about it separately in a different video. But yeah, it does not abolish it in any way. Nope, not at all. The new covenant simply allowed Gentiles, which the Gentiles are the many, they are the multitude, the great multitude. It allowed them to be grafted into Israel's fold. It covered them. They were covered by the blood when he died and he shed his blood. But remember, Yeshua says, I've come not to abolish the law, but to fulfill it. All right, so we're just going to leave it on that note. So in closing, who is the he in Daniel chapter 9? He is the Messiah. Yeshua the HaMashiach shall confirm the covenant with many for 1 week. There was a covenant made with many. Thank you so much for watching, and take care.